Hey everyone, what's going on? On March 10th, the major mainstream media article was about the Ethiopian airline crash and also how it was connected to the Lion air crash that happened back in October. And the big thing was that they were both Boeing 737 MAX airplanes and they have crashed within a short amount of time from each other. And if you're new to what I talk about on this channel, I talk about how our mainstream media and our sports leagues and our history and, pretty much everything in the world is all done by a certain code. And if you understand ancient knowledge practices, such as what is called Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism that has a belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number with the word, you can see how this coding exists, how there are signs and symbols and patterns that exist within our everyday life. And if you understand these a little bit better, you can get a better understanding of the way that this world is truly works. The way the world works. You'll start to see that the people who control the mainstream media and sports leagues and the people who are ruling over us, they understand this knowledge and they place certain stories in front of us at certain times in order to somehow manipulate the way that this world works. And they've been doing it forever, and they just continually rule over us. That's why not that many people know about this system that exists. And I have more to learn as well, but that's why I'm making these videos, because every day I'm learning more and more of how this world truly works and what is really going on. And you can learn a lot too if you just, check out some links in the description and learn to apply this for yourself. It's absolutely very, very simple what I'm going to show you here. So we got these two stories, and they said they were connected because they were both Boeing 737 MAX airplanes crashing in such a short amount of time. And what's so interesting about that is in Kabbalah, with Jewish mysticism that practices coding numbers into words and phrases, if you write out the word Ethiopia, it equals 133. And this is important because if you look at the span of days that these two airplane crashes happened apart, it's 133 days. So the Lion air crash happened 133 days before this new one in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia just so happens to equal 133. Also, in regards to God creating the world by merging the letter with the number, it's interesting if you know anything about Ethiopia and Rastafari, maybe you know some stuff from Bob Marley and Jamaica. Their old emperor, the last emperor who led there, was Haile Selassie, and Haile Selassie the first equals 133. And they claim that he was the second coming of Jesus Christ, right? And what's interesting too is this Ethiopian crash happened on the date of May 10th, 310, a lot like 310. In Jewish gematria, once again, think about Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, just the word Selassie equals 310, and also the word emperor equals 310. And think about the Lion air crash. In Ethiopia, the Lion of Judah was on the flag until the year 74, when Haile Selassie, the supposed second coming of Jesus Christ, was the leader until the year 74. And Jesus is also known as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So there's a big Jesus and lion narrative that is going on with this story, if you pay enough attention to how the patterns exist. That's also why it's important that this is the second disaster, right? Because it's a lot like the second coming. It's all connected to Haile Selassie and Rastafari. Even to further what I'm talking about, this airplane was headed to Kenya. And if you look up The Lion King, the film, the 1994 cartoon, they say that the setting was based off of Hell's Gate National Park that is in Kenya. So this airplane is going to Kenya, where the Lion King is based off of. And I just want to show you this flag really quick, just so you know what I'm talking about here. If my pictures will even load here. Maybe they won't load. It's this flag right here. This is the Lion of Judah, right? Which is representative of Jesus Christ, also Haile Selassie. To go even further, if you look up Haile Selassie, you'll find that he was actually born on July 23rd, which is a very interesting date in regards to lions even, because in astrology, the astrological sign of Leo, which is a lion, it also begins on July 23rd, which is Haile Selassie's birthday. So he was born on the first day of Leo, which is a lion. He's supposedly the lion of the tribe of Judah. They have the Lion of Judah on their flag when he was the ruler until the year 74, which is really interesting because in Gematria, words such as Jesus equals 74. So he rules until the year 74. He's the second coming of Jesus. Jesus Christ also equals 74. The word Messiah equals 74. The word cross equals 74. The word gospel equals 74. And so on. There's so many other ones. Joshua, Yeshua, Muhammad equals 74. The word occult also equals 74. The word Masonic equals 74. Hold on, I gotta go get my charger. Think of how our nation was founded by many Freemasons, right? It's founded on all of these same principles. That's why our nation's independence is 7-4, right? And if you write out Independence Day, that also equals 74. And if you write out the word holiday, it equals 74. The only state that equals 74 is Oregon, which is the 33rd state, and Jesus supposedly died on the cross at the age of 33. In Freemasonry, there's 33 degrees. The headquarters in Washington, D.C., are outside of it has 33 pillars that are all 33 feet tall because they do things by this certain code. That's why it's important that it's in Washington, D.C. If you write out George Washington, it equals 187. And if you write out Washington, D.C., it also equals 187. What Scottish Rite Freemasonry is actually called is Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. That also equals 187. And, it stems back to the 187 chapters that are in the Jewish holy book, the Torah, right? So, and think about, once again, Jewish mysticism, how it's connected to coding letters into numbers. That's even why, maybe you've seen the Freemason square and compass. I'll just put this in here really quick. This right here, it's set at 47 degrees. And this is also called the pole star. In Gematria, that equals 47. And, if you write out things like Republican, that equals 47. And if you write out Democrat, that equals 47. If you write out White House, that also equals 47. The word president equals 47. The word government equals 47. And, many, many other examples. Even just the word DC equals 47. That's why the tropics of the world are even, divided by 47 degrees. Also, think about 47 in light of it's the reflection of 74, right? 47 is the reverse of 74. And that's what I have up here. The front words, Gematria, A is 1, all the way up to Z is 26. You add up the letters. This is the reduced way where you reduce it to numerology, like O, the 15th letter, you just take 1 plus 5 is 6. And then these are reversed. So Z is 1 to A is 26. And then this is just the reduced way as well. And, think about the word God as well. Just the word God. It's dog backwards, right? And, let's look at a picture of the dollar bill really quick. I just want to point out some stuff here. Dollar bill picture. On this dollar bill, people always talk about how it's the Illuminati, right? Because of the all-seeing eye and whatnot. But this actually represents Sirius, which is the dog star, right? Think about God and dog, and that's what it's all about. The ascension to Sirius, right? The spiritual ascension to Sirius. And even in the movie Bruce Almighty, just think about how God comes down from the light out of the ceiling, and he comes down the ladder even, right? And that's what Freemasonry is all about, going up the ladder to ascend to Sirius. And, this is being in the light, which is the Illuminati. And Freemasonry is the pursuit of the light. So, just, pointing out a bunch of examples here, and then I'm going to get back to it. But, just think about it. God. And in Hermeticism, which is another piece of ancient knowledge, they have a belief that everything is the same and everything is the opposite. That's why they always say, as above, as, so below. Phrases like that. Notice that God equals 55 and 10 in reverse, and the frontwards way Satan equals 55 and 10. But anyway, I wanted to explain all that because it makes more sense here. So when you look up Haile Selassie, all of the Ethiopian emperors, they claim to have descent from King David, right? Let me see. He was a member of the Solomonic, I can't even say it right, Solomonic dynasty, who traced his lineage back to all of these people, right? All of the emperors of Ethiopia up to this guy, before he was, overthrown, his sons and whatever are still supposedly part of this, right? And his sons both are born during the time of Leo, too. So both of his sons were born during the time of Leo the lion. But within Freemasonry, the temples of Freemasonry, they're supposed to represent Solomon's temple, the first temple in Jerusalem and whatnot. And it's a big part of Freemasonry. So just pointing it out, this guy claims descent from Solomon, and then it's all about Freemasonry, the building of the temple and Hiram Abiff. And that's been a really big topic this year. We've been talking about how there's a lot of coding with the third temple and how it connects to August 11th, which is, once again, during the time of Leo, which is a lion. And also there's World Lion Day that begins on August 10th this year, which is the same day as Tisha B'Av begins. It begins at the night of August 10th, and that's also World Lion Day. And the new Lion King is coming out just a few weeks before that in July. I'm surprised they didn't wait until the time of Leo for the movie The Lion King to come out. But, just moral of the story is that all of this is synced up to Freemasonry. And, Freemasonry is all about the King James Bible and Jesus Christ and this code that exists. Maybe not every Freemason knows this code, but there are people within Freemasonry who do understand this, and these people are, essentially playing God over the rest of the world. And what else is interesting is the last video that I even made, I even talked about the date of 310 and how I was watching for something really symbolic and important on that day. I didn't know if there was going to be, a false flag. I wasn't sure, but I knew there was something special that I was supposed to see on that date. And if you go back to some of my videos I made last summer, there was a whole lot of stuff connected to Leon, which also means lion. We had the death of that wrestler, Vader, whose real name was Leon. And we had the AT&T merger with Time Warner, and the judge's name was Leon. And that's all connected to 9/11 symbolism. And I can't remember it all. There was a bunch of stuff that was with Leon. Jeff Bridges who's in The Fisher King, and Robin Williams died on August 11th, which is that big day, right? And he's in that movie, The Fisher King, but his middle name was Leon, and we've been talking about how it's synced up to the Golden Gate Bridge, and, the Golden Gate is where the Jews believe the Messiah will return through. What else is funny is right before I started making this video that I'm making, somebody had commented on this video, and I don't know if I don't think they're trolling or anything, but how interesting. Look at their profile here. It's all about lions, and this seems like a legit person, but I'm telling you, we live in this world that, for whatever reason, if you pay enough attention to these patterns that exist within your own life, you can see how everything in the world is truly interrelated, whether people are manipulating it or not. If someone manipulates something else, it's still going to manipulate the way that I see the world and the way that you see the world, if that makes sense. So just because you can manipulate the world, it doesn't mean that it can't involve the rest of the world still. So who knows, I get weird stuff like this all the time, so I'm pretty sure this person's legit, but I don't really have a clue, so just thought it was hilarious that it's all about lions right before I'm making this video about lions. And I was going to start this video earlier, but none of my blog pictures were loading. They still won't work. Not all of them will work. I don't know what the deal is with it, but they won't work. That one on YouTube, it would work on right here. But when I went to my actual YouTube comment, it wouldn't work. And when I went to my email, it doesn't work. So I have no clue. I restarted the computer. I've opened a different browser, tried a bunch of different things. I went to other people's blogs on the same website, and they work just fine. So I don't understand what the problem is, but it's been loading absolutely really slow too. It was hard for me to even make a blog post earlier. Anyway, let's look at Haile Selassie a little bit more. So when you look this guy up, he died at the age of 83. And if you go back to this gematria calculator here, notice what Ethiopia equals. Ethiopia equals 83. So this leader, he dies at the age of 83. And look what his name is in gematria. It also equals 83 in gematria. What are the odds of that, right? His name equals 83. He died at the age of 83. He was the leader of Ethiopia that equals 83. And then he was overthrown in the year 74 by this group called Berg. Berg equals 74, and they overthrew him in the year 74. He also became the emperor on 4-2. Think about how he's important to Jesus, all these 74s. He became the emperor on the date of 4-2. And the New Testament that begins with Matthew, and it's the 42 generations leading up to Jesus, right? The word math also equals 42. The word Bethlehem equals 42. If you write out New Testament equals 42. That's why the original Bibles, the Gutenberg Bibles, had 42 lines. That's why, the super N word in gematria stamped on black people, that also equals 42. And there's an absolute reason for that, because Jesus most likely was not a white guy, right? And, just think about that with Rastafari and Jamaica and Bob Marley. Also, the word Freemason equals 42. Freemason equals 42. How fitting, right? Freemason 42. All of this Jesus coding. We even just got the death of George Foreman's daughter, who died at age 42, right? That's why Rodney King's birthday was 4-2, and much, much more. Rosa Parks was 42 years old when she rode the bus. The word bus equals 42. It's never ending. Jackie Robinson and the number 42. So, interesting things with him. The word Rastafari equals 93, just like Bob Marley. What are the odds of that, right? Rastafari 93, Bob Marley 93. Also, Saturn equals 93, which is important. Saturn is the supposed original sun, and we're told that our sun is 93 million miles away. And if you write out God's sun, it equals 93 in Gematria. Jesus was supposedly crucified on the date of 4/3, February or April 3rd, and that is the 93rd day of the year. So he was supposedly crucified on the 93rd day of the year. The word crucifix equals 93. Saturn is also El, who is the Phoenician bull god, who is most likely the god of the Old Testament. So, you know, most likely the god of this world that we're living in. Notice, though, that Saturn also equals 42. Nazareth equals 42 and 93. It was all, Bob Marley's death was all a big Saturn ritual. He even died on 5/11, which in Jewish Gematria, Saturn equals 511. That's why Haile Selassie was even buried on the date of November 5th, 11/5, or also 5/11, because it's all about Saturn, a big Saturn ritual. The current constitution of, it doesn't have a picture of it, but the current constitution of Ethiopia even was 5 months and 11 days before this plane crash, right? 5/11. It's also interesting that if you take the Lion Air and then also the Ethiopian Air ones, it was flight 610 and also 302. If you add them together, it equals 912. And September 12th was the day that Haile Selassie was overthrown in the year 74, right? So, just interesting. Maybe nothing. Maybe a coincidence there, but I found that pretty interesting. This was also Flight 302, and the Lion Air crash happened on the 302nd day of the year. So, can't really make that up. In Rastafari, they call God Jah, or however you pronounce that. Maybe, I don't know how you pronounce it. Jah. If you write that out in Gematria, it equals 10. Just like God, just like Satan, just like El, just like Ra. And they believe that God is man and man is God. Well, the word man equals the same as God. You know, the first man was Adam, who equals the same as man and God and Satan. And God supposedly created Adam out of dust. That equals 10. And so on, you know. It's possibly why binary code is ones and zeros even, you know. It's why, you know, the 10 commandments are important as well. Think about it. God and the 10 commandments, and God equals 10. In Jewish Gematria, if you write out Jesus of Nazareth, I found it interesting that it equals 1776, which that's a lot like the year that the nation was founded, right? On the date of 7/4. So Jesus and Jesus Christ equals 7/4, and then Jesus of Nazareth equals 1776. Just like the year and the date of, you know, the United States' supposed independence. So, sort of off topic, but not really. That's why I brought up the Solomon thing and the temple, the construction of the temple, because we've been talking a lot about Tisha B'Av, which is the Jewish holy festival in remembrance of the destruction of the two temples, and how it's connected to August 10th, August 11th this year, right? And there's, in my last video, I talked about how possibly the number 310 is just somehow connected to that date. And I looked up Revelation 3:10 just to figure out what it was, and it's interesting that the part that it mentioned, Revelation 3:10, it's in the part where it talks about the Church of Philadelphia and the Synagogue of Satan. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I talked about why Philadelphia is really important to San Francisco, where the Golden Gate Bridge is. And they have the Comcast Center that has a black cube on the top, which is representative of the New Jerusalem that is the third temple is going to be built around, right? So there's a lot more to it. Like Hulk Hogan's birthday is August 11th as well. And Hulk Hogan got his revenge on Earthquake in Philadelphia at the Spectrum Center. August 11th is also the San Francisco Mayor London Breed's birthday. But Philadelphia is really important to what I have been talking about with this upcoming possible event. And, 310, Revelation 3:10 is the part. It's involved in the Church of Philadelphia. And also the word cube equals 310. Think about the New Jerusalem, how it is a cube, and Saturn's cube, right? The black cube on top of the Comcast Center. That's why in the movie Pixels, the first thing they fight is the black cubes or whatever. And then the cover of that movie is Pac-Man eating San Francisco, but yet that whole movie never has one scene in it that's in San Francisco. And it's eating the Golden Gate Bridge and so on. It doesn't really make that much sense. The word cube is 310 in this cipher called English Extended. And what's really interesting about this in regards to the Lion King and whatever else, if you go to this cipher here and you type out Barack Obama's full name, Barack Hussein Obama II, his name equals 811 in the cipher. And if you recall, Obama once referred to himself as the Lion King, and he's also, from Kenya, right, where the Lion King was based off of, right, Hell's Gate and Kenya. So there's just something interesting in regards to that. Obama equaling 811, and he said that he was the Lion King. Even think about Kenya, right? Nairobi, Kenya equals 124. Also 74. I didn't even realize that before, but 124. Just like if you write out Lion King or the Lion King equals 124. The Lion King 124. Nairobi, Kenya, where this airplane was going, equals 124. And Haile Selassie, let's look at him again. He also equals 124, just like the Lion King. This is why I think that Jeff Bridges is important too. And I know that might be confusing to people, but you have to watch some of my videos in regards to how I thought Ralphie May would possibly die, and then Ralphie May did die, and it was connected to this number 124, this number that's all around fat comedians and death. Like Chris Farley equals 124, John Belushi died on January 24th, and so on, Many other examples of 124. There's even, right after I made that video, we had the death of a fat comedian named Kevin Meaney, whose name equaled 124. And then Ralphie May died 1 month and 24 days after that video that I put out, or whatever, after the date of that video, 1 month and 24 days. And, his middle name's Leon, it means the lion, right? And there's something important to Bridges and so on. So Jeff Bridges' birthday is even December 4th, 12/4. And the real Big Lebowski, I believe, died 124 days before 12/4. So there's something important to how all of this syncs up. Possibly there's something to do with James Earl Jones, right? Who's the voice of Mufasa. Or maybe Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was the voice of Simba. I'm not sure. I know I documented some things back in like September about that, so I'll have to go back and look now that I just started thinking about it. Barack Obama, too, before August 11th, he's going to be turning 58 years old, which is interesting because Freemasonry also equals 58. So, definitely just something interesting that I noticed while I was typing in some things and thinking about Obama being the Lion King. And me also almost saying Osama is funny because the date of 310, that's Osama bin Laden's birthday, right? 310. back when that the Lion Air crash happened, I documented a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't write in here, but it was really connected to Prince Philip, you know, Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip. And his birthday is 610, and that the number of the airplane was 610, and it had 189 passengers on it, and his name equals 189. And there was something important to the wrestling event that was in Saudi Arabia, and John Cena not going, and John Cena being born on 423, and Prince Philip's name in that English extended cipher also equals 423. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because Haile Selassie's real name, Tafari whatever, that equals 423. So, something really important to it. The Lion Air one was synced up to Prince Philip and also Prince Charles, who would become King Charles if Queen Elizabeth dies. And in satanic gematria, the word King Charles III equals 190, or King Charles III equals 190, but in satanic gematria, the word lion equals 190. And with the end date, it was, can't even remember, it was 190 days away from John Cena's birthday. I know it's confusing, but I'm telling you, there was something connected to that wrestling event in Saudi Arabia. We also had the greatest Royal Rumble earlier that year in Saudi Arabia. And that one it was called the Crown Jewel, the one that happened in November. The Crown Jewel. And then the greatest Royal Rumble. Think about that with earthquakes, the king's symbolism. Prince Philip is exactly 1,776 days older than Queen Elizabeth, too. Just an interesting thing with, the King of Kings, Jesus of Nazareth, right? The King of Judah, or the Lion of Judah. And 310 is 42 days before Queen Elizabeth's 93rd birthday, right? So think about Rastafari equal 93, Saturn 93. Saturn also equals 42. This is 42 days before. And even more interesting is Queen Elizabeth's birthday falls on Easter this year, her 93rd birthday. And think about that in regards to the resurrection of Jesus, right? So her birthday falls on the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus. God's Son equals 93, supposedly crucified on the 93rd day of the year, Saturn 93. It all makes sense. There's something really important to the royal family in regards to that. So I'm going to end the video with something that happened to me last night. I was, and this stuff happens to me all the time. It's called synchronicity, supposedly, right? Coined by Carl Jung, who died by the numbers as well. Synchronicity, following these weird patterns, these things that happen to you. And my girlfriend didn't have to work, so she wanted to go to the casino last night, and I was like, whatever, we'll go to the casino. And when I got home, I went to my email, and I noticed that I had a spammed message on one of my old blog posts about The Simpsons, and it was an episode about gambling. I had synchronicity with this episode a long time ago. I was writing up a blog post, and I wrote the word Freemason, and right as I wrote the word Freemason, I heard the TV say, Freemasons run the country. And I looked up, and it was an episode of The Simpsons where Marge was addicted to gambling, and then, like, Mr. Burns' face, the pimples or something, they said Freemasons run the country. Just really random. And it was right when I was typing the word Freemason. And so I go to the casino last night, and I come home, and I have a spammed comment on my old post about the Simpsons gambling episode and Freemasons running the country. And I'm like, what are the odds? Like, a post about, a TV show that's about gambling, and I just got back from the casino, right? Like, how do they know I'm at the casino, or what's going on, right? And it was this episode right here. Springfield, whatever, the 91st episode. But what I noticed too was funny is that if you write out the word Freemason, it equals the same as this person who spammed me, right? 147. So I thought that was funny. But while I was writing up this blog post, my girlfriend randomly turned on Family Guy and laid down on the couch because she was going to go to bed. And she turned on a random episode. And as I was writing up this blog post about casinos, and I heard Peter on Family Guy say, "Yeah, and Tiny Sharon Stone from Casino." And I was like, did he just say the word casino? Like what are the odds of that? I'm writing up this blog post about the casino, and we just got back from the casino, and now an episode of Family Guy. Like, how many episodes of Family Guy did they really mention casino in, right? So I was like, what in the world? So I looked up Sharon Stone, who he mentioned, and of course, look when her birthday is, March 10th. Like, what are the odds? All this big day I was talking about, this number. Just now I'm seeing that she's in some movie called King Solomon's Mines, too. But, want to just point out that March 10th date, 310, and Family Guy equals 124, Simpsons equal 124. If you read out Freemasons Run the Country, like this whole blog post was about, that equals 124. Also, I'm going to leave a link to this person's channel too. He gave me a bunch of good information that I used in this video, but I'll leave a link to it. Here, let me find it here. But right here, I always get confused because he's had different names. It was like Casey Jones, and then it was some other one. Now it's Falcor too, but I do leave a link to the channel in the description of every video, but I'll leave a link to this video. But I'm losing my train of thought here. You gotta find my old post here. He just pointed out that World Lion Day this year is on August 10th, right? And all summer I was talking about how August 10th was this really important day. Even in October, I was mentioning October 10th, or August 10th and the Iowa State Fair, because the band Slipknot is going to be performing in Des Moines at the Iowa State Fair for the first time ever. And they're from Iowa, and they have that song called Gematria, the Killing Name, and their bass player, Paul Gray, died all by the numbers of Gematria, right? Why would they have a song called Gematria, the Killing Name? So obviously they have an understanding of this knowledge as well, but they're going to be playing the Iowa State Fair, and Donald Trump said he was Batman at the Iowa State Fair in a helicopter. A bunch of really important things that it's just too much to re-explain. I'll find that video and leave a link in the description, but I also mentioned Rocky Colavito from the Cleveland Indians. He's going to be 86 years old on that day this year, and his name syncs up to King Charles III, and modern Freemasonry was founded on 624, and, his name equals 624, and he got traded to the Detroit Tigers at equals 624. That's why last year the Indians played the Tigers on the date of 624. That's why Grover Cleveland died on 624, just before the Cubs won the World Series in 1908. The word Jesuit equals 624, Freemasonry within the Catholic Church. But just pointing out, August 10th is important because that's actually when Tisha B'Av begins. It begins at the night of August 10th, and then August 11th would be like the first actual day of it, right? Or according to us, right? But so all this stuff happened, right? And this is how I know that there's something I was supposed to see with Freemasonry and Solomon, because why would I get this spammed post about gambling, and then it was all about this Freemasons Run the Country episode, and then, everything about this story with this plane crash is all connected to Freemasonry and Jesus and Solomon. So it's definitely interesting. And then they all equal 124, just like the Lion King, just like Haile Selassie. It was the Simpsons 91st episode. The word Simba equals 91. And also Lion King equals 91, right? Simba's the Lion King. What are the odds that Simba and Lion King have the same gematria? Also, this episode of Family Guy that I had this weird synchronicity with, I made a video where I talked about, I know I talked about this in multiple videos, but maybe it wasn't multiple videos, but I talked about it on something. And what happens at the end of this video, it has Randy Quaid in it. He's the conspiracy theorist guy, right? They say they're going to kill him. And they also joke about Scott Stapp from Creed, right? The other guy who said the Illuminati was trying to kill him and whatnot. And I went and looked up the video that I had about Scott Stapp and Creed, and I just so happened to put it out in 2015 on the day that leaves 310 days in the year. And I don't even remember. This was right around the time of the Teen Wolf stuff, if you followed me. That's when I noticed this big pattern with Teen Wolf and, Zach Levine, the Teen Wolf who did the Space Jam dunk that year. His birthday is 310. And this video is about Joey Logano, the NASCAR guy, and Matt Kenseth. His birthday was also I keep saying May, March 10th. And he won the NASCAR race that same day or whatever, same weekend that Zach Levine did the Space Jam dunk. He's the Teen Wolf. So maybe nothing, but just interesting. It's about NASCAR. Once again, just reminding me of the 310. So we'll leave the video there. Hopefully it makes sense. There's definitely a pattern. It's connected to the Lion of the tribe of Judah, which is Jesus, and, the second coming. But it's really important to the Messiah and the Golden Gate and a ton of other things. So we'll keep following the riddle and see what happens, May 13th, another day that I've been watching for. Definitely important day. May 13th. I know there's something important to it. That's why we got this Lori Loughlin story. I documented about her back in February 5th. I was talking about Jerry Sandusky and all these old things that I documented about. And back on April 12th of 2018, we got these 4 earthquakes that were in Nebraska, and they kept showing Valentine, Nebraska on the map, and it's just like small town. They showed all these big cities, and then they showed Valentine, Nebraska, and it was like, that's odd they would show that, but when you look it up, this lady, her character in Full House, was from Valentine, Nebraska, and she even married, Jesse Kasopoulos on Valentine's Day in the show, and his real name is Hermes. In the show, you find out his real name's not Jesse. It's actually, he was born as the name of Hermes, and Hermes is, why it's important to Hermeticism. Hermes Trismegistus, who's also Thoth. So, and the reason why her name in Jewish gematria equals 513, and it is this big number that I've been talking about in connection to all of the stuff that's been going on. So, and the TV show set in San Francisco. I talked about how there's all kinds of stuff. I talked about this episode a long time ago with Stephanie Tanner and how they sing the song "The Sign" by Ace of Base, and that song is all about spiritual ascension. No one's gonna drag you up until you get into the light where you belong, but where do you belong, right? The whole song is not what you think it's about, and they even do the one eye symbolism in the music video, but that was the 186th episode, and Ace of Base equals 186. Jodie Sweden, who plays Stephanie on the show, her name equals 186. And the reason that's important is because Lori Loughlin, when I made this blog post about her on February 5th, is 186 days before August 10th, and her name equals 186. So, and they also did an episode about the Loma Prieta earthquake, where Stephanie was scared that her dad was going to die and whatnot just after the Loma Prieta earthquake. Is the 55th episode. The word earthquake equals 55. Bunch of stuff connected to Donald Trump, so interesting stuff. So think about that one more. I didn't really look at it too much because it was taking forever to make this post because my pictures weren't working and everything else. I also did mention Dawson's Creek not that long ago in this duck video, and now we're getting, this is called the Varsity Blues operation, right? And that stars James Vanderbeek, who's Dawson from Dawson's Creek. And I was mentioning the Mighty Ducks and how it's connected to Joshua Jackson, who was Pacey on Dawson's Creek. So, and they both of them movies, or I was talking about the Skulls with Joshua Jackson, and then Varsity Blues. They both have Paul Walker in it, which is important to the death of George H.W. Bush earlier this year. So, a lot more to think about. But anyway, whatever. I made my point. There's definitely lion, Jesus, and stuff going on with all this. So, have a good one. Peace.